I talk a lot to not only the language, but I talk a lot to my students about our way of life. And, in order to do that, you need to be knowledgeable. Or you can call in an elder and talk to the classroom, bring them in and have asked them questions about what they know. A lot of our elders speak English now. And most of the elders are really knowledgeable about our way of life. And that needs to be shared. I always say that to the elders when we have an elder meeting. We need to share now. So don't hang on to your knowledge and leave us with your knowledge. I said, when that happens, I said, it's going to really hurt our younger generations that are coming up. Because now is a time to share. So I said, you need to, when that elder was getting after me about teaching in the classroom about our language, I thought to myself, but I didn't answer her back. She's older than I am because she's no longer here. But I respect her for what she was saying to me. But nowadays, we need to teach our children in classroom settings, if we need to teach our Lakota language, our culture, or even our way of life. How we were brought up, just what I talked about. How our parents, especially if you grow up with parents, that really has stability of mind to the children nowadays. If you have a father and a mother, that really is so helpful. But that is not the case in some cases. Like some of us grandparents, we are raising our children. And that is something that is going on strongly nowadays. That, to me, that is because due to alcohol. And nowadays, we were talking about, we used to be able to tell when a person is drunk through alcohol because they stagger. But nowadays, you can't tell with those drugs. So we need to really alert and have our children be aware of what is going on and tell them what it can do to their lives. So they'll be aware of that. So the teachers here, they need to take that time out. Say like if they were talking about science, what harm does science do? Or what good does it do? Because I always say science and religion is supposed to go hand in hand. But even like now I'll say, I was teaching them yesterday, Leampetuki today, Hihanaki tomorrow. And I say, and they don't know because like Ampetu Tokahe is Monday, so will be Sunday. So I was teaching them that, and I said, how many of you went to church? Nobody raised their hand. So what does that tell you? Spirituality is not in every home, and that we need to remember who is the Almighty and powerful, who is made us in His image, and who gave us this brain to use it and to learn about life. We need to tell these things to our children. I do that in my classroom. You need to be aware of who the powerful one is, our Creator. You need to know that. Look out the window and look up at the sky and say, good morning, oh God. Even that little phrase will help you throughout the day. So these are some of the things that, they, even like, our native teachers, non-native teachers or native teachers, they need to do these things to this day and age, because if they're not learning that in a home, they're going to be lost in the world. And they're not going to they're going to be taking things for granted. And they themselves are going to feel so sorry for themselves, whatever, and then comes suicide. So these are very important things that we need to do as in a school like this. It's a place to learn. So if the teachers are of that, and if we can pull in grandparents, that'll be so helpful. And that's where our children will learn. Because when Gladys Hawk was teaching in a college, she asked me and my sister, if we could come to her class and talk all in Lakota about our way of life, like what I had done. So we did. So we had to really concentrate not to say a word of English. And we, it really was really surprising that we talked for a whole hour, maybe more, in our language about how we grew up. And I could just picture some of those faces of those students. They were so amazed of how Lakota language could be so, cherishing and yet so loving because you can speak it. And then some of them said, I wish someday I could, understand or even speak the Lakota language. So that's where it is so important that we do that now. Like that one person mentioned about parenting, about parent group. We need to be concentrating on that. How are we going to get to these young adults, young parents, so they can raise their children in a nice way, loving way?